Hello and welcome to One Man's Collection. Today I'm looking at the 54th edition of the Supercars World's Greatest Cars in Miniature. This is the Lister Storm from 1993. I never even knew what a Lister Storm was until I started doing slot car racing, and there was one in there. And then I saw them in the GT class. Not something we've ever had in Australia here, but good looking car. Right-hand drive too, just never seen one over here. I think from the UK from memory. I do have a 143 scale die-cast car there that has been getting a bit of shelf dust and bug stuff, so we'll put that on the turntable at the end, but we'll have a look. But I'm going to go through this magazine very briefly so I can have a look at what's actually in this one. So it's the design of the Lister Storm, technology and the manufacture and the origins, which is pretty good. For a decade or so, spanning from the late 50s to the early 60s, a little-known family from the Cambridgeshire found its way onto the top level of international sports car racing. Engineer and racing driver Brian Lister harnessed skills from his family's metalworking firm, building his own cars, which went on to challenge the might of Aston Martin Ferrari for a brief period. Lister was a racing loyalty, so that's the 50s and 60s. We're definitely not talking about that. The historic Lister brand was revived in the 80s. Following decade, the company produced one of the most dramatic and striking supercars of the era, the Lister Storm. This is the one I had as a slot car, black with multiple colours on it, or at least one like it. Maybe a different team, but it certainly looked like that. Fast and in demand, the Storm project started to take shape in the early 90s, and it came to the tail end of the era that has seen the string of exclusive and expensive supercar push the boundaries of technology and performance. One just needs to think of the model from the F40, Bugatti EB110, Jaguar XJ220, and the Lamborghini Diablo, to name a few. Unfortunately for Lister, the excess of the late 80s and the early 90s was starting to wind down by the time Lister Storm arrived in the scene, perhaps contributing to the limited commercial success. Yeah, probably. And like I said, I only saw them in racing pedigree, in the racing cars. Even meaner, the racing version of the Storm emphasizes the car's muscular lines. This photo shows the side of a Storm GT, which raced in a GT2 spec in the peak of the model's competition career. It retained the road car's steep sloping nose and its distinctive wedge-shaped profile. Yeah. Kind of glad I actually got this in this particular model because, like I said, I do have it in slot car version. That's nice, isn't it? Good looking car. I wonder what's happened to them. Racing Heart. It may have been located at the front of the car, but rather than in the middle, but the core of the Lister Storm was still very definitely its huge 7-litre V12. Holy schmoly. 554 horsepower, 790 newton meters of torque, 0 to 60 or 0 to 97 kilometers an hour in 4.1 seconds. Top speed 335 kilometers an hour, 208 mile an hour. It got going. Love the look of the diffuser stuff. That's in race spec, obviously, there. Yeah. Let's have a look a little bit further. So there's your street version. So the engine was actually a Jaguar, just under 7 litre, supercharged, 60-degree V12. Position is front longitudinal. That's why it's got such a long nose on it. With 554 horsepower. Yeah. Manufacturing. After a brief hiatus, the Lister brand once again started producing cars with the continuation series based on the 1950s Lister Nobly and the explosive new coupe. Nobly? Is that really? Yeah. Sterling Moss there. Cool. Bridge between eras. So Lister, under the Lawrence Pierce ownership, continued to build racing cars for around a decade after the Storm ceased production as a road car. The brand then went on into hibernation for a few years, but it wouldn't be long before it made another comeback. Current Lister Motor Company was launched in 2013 when father and son team Andrew and Lawrence Whitaker bought 5 limited companies that collectively made up Lister, plus the intellectual property of all the past designs. However, the story behind Lister's revival had begun a few years previously with Whitaker's purchase that was believed to be the original Lister Jaguar, better known as a Lister Nobly. On closer inspection, it turned out that many of the parts were not original, so they set about restoring the car to its correct specifications. In order to do so, they approached George Lister Engineering, Brian Lister's family firm that still exists as an independent company today. Well, there you go. Find out the original drawings had survived. Cool. You can read the rest of that story by pressing pause. Going to keep moving. Looks very Jaguarish now, this one here. 3 vents on the wide splitter characterise the front of the hugely powerful LFT 666. There were just 5 years between the first and last cars produced by the original incarnation of Lister cars, between 54 and 59. It wasn't until 1993 that the name would again appear on the all-new design, the Storm. Yeah, that's what we're reading about there. I'm not going to read all of this in detail. You can pause. Okay, this one here, that's the LMP version of the Lister. My wife actually has that particular car in a slot car as well. I think Scalextric in the limited edition version. And I've got this one in the standard version because I do slot cars and my wife is into it as well. And yes, she races it. Slow ascent. In the first half of the 90s, the Lister Motor Company decided to become involved in motor racing, pitting itself against the biggest names in the world. In 1995, the British brand took part in the grueling 24-hour Le Mans, lining up a suitably modified Storm called the GTS. The mighty 7-litre V12 car was entered in the newly formed LM GT1 class, reserved for GTs derived from production cars, or for forerunners of GT models designed for standard production. The team was made up of, okay, we're not going to actually do the whole thing there. It came to an end after 40 laps, owing to a gearbox problems. That's not too many laps in, but it's a big track, like a long track. I wonder how long it takes to do 40 laps. Don't know. It ended in retirement again in 1996. Still came 19th place. Very good. One more. Yep. Converted to a hybrid, the Storm prototype only completed a handful of races between 2005 and 2006. This one's a non-painted version, obviously. Non-sponsored or limited sponsored by the looks of it, just Dunlop. In the 1,000 kilometres of Istanbul in 2006, the opening race of the Le Mans Series season, the Storm LMP finished in third place, the hands of Justin Keane, Nick Kaiser, and Jens Moller. I think that's how you pronounce those names. All right, looking at the next series of magazine, 55, we've got the Mazzanti Evantra, which I had never seen before until I got this magazine. Followed by a Koenigsegg CC8S 2002. Very similar looking cars, to be honest, other than the full wraparound window of the Koenigsegg. But at a quick glance, they're not too dissimilar. All right, let's take a look at the car here. It's going to be a little bit more difficult because it is black, but the model car itself, we do have the icon on the badge. So the badge on the wheel hub also looks like it's got a bit of, it's a bit of rubber there. There we go. No, yeah, rubber's actually come around there. It looks like it's not working there. But the window is open here, and we do have a driver's side on the right-hand side. No dash. It's all black. Okay, they didn't actually fill that out. But we do have black handbrake and gear shift. Yeah, and a full cream leather interior. Having a look at the back. Definitely a big number plate with the Lister, isn't it? Storm written there as well. Fuel cap on the side there. Antenna, I've got to make sure I don't break off. Mirror is actually pretty good. Yeah. Round to the front. Not a lot to it, but actually come up quite well underneath. Let's turn it around so we can read it. Not a lot written there. The Lister Storm GTL, and what is looking like a couple of mufflers and the exhaust pipe running down the back. Is that a rear gearbox or a large diff? Kind of looks like a rear gearbox type there, or a massive rear differential hub. Alright, going to put that on the turntable. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll be back with issue number 54 next week. Cheers. Bye.